Hello all, welcome back to Editorial Analysis Answer Writing practice at 9 p.m. Today will be a discussion day. So I will be discussing the questions which I gave in day 14, day 15, day 16 and day 17. Right? Friends, next week we will not be having editorial discussions. Next week will be a break. The series will continue from next to next week. Okay, please make a note. Next week there will be no editorial discussions. Right. So day 14, while increasing the number of judges is essential, it is not sufficient to address the problem of case pendency in Indian courts. One side the pending cases are very high, another side the judges available is very less, right? So increasing the number of judges is one solution, but that cannot be the only solution to address all the problems. There are many more problems which judiciary faces. Discuss. This is what we are going to explain in this answer. So we can start with your introduction. So introduction, you can highlight a fact. You can highlight about the national judicial data grids data, which was saying that there are 5 crore plus pending cases in Indian judiciary. You can mention, and what about the judicial shortages that you can mention, right? But however, shortage of judges is one pain point, but that is not the only reason for the pendency. There are other issues, other reasons also. So what are the other reasons? Briefly, you highlight other reasons: infrastructural issues, slow adoption of technology, the shortage in the judicial administrative staffs, like that we have discussed, right? We have discussed many cases are government cases, all those you can briefly mention, right? And you suggest measures. So what all we have to do? What are all the measures which we have to take? So you can also mention the measures taken by the government, and also you can suggest your own measures, and finally you can conclude. So in conclusion, you stress more on bringing awareness on improving the pre-mitigation litigation, out of the court settlement, lok adalat, gram nyayalaya, all those you can mention in the conclusion. And also government should set an example by moving to the out of court settlements. All those you can mention in the conclusions for effectively addressing this pendency issues, right? Or in conclusion, you can mention there is a growing population, growing economy, multidimensional cases are emerging, so the pending cases is going to further increase in the Indian judiciary. So all these issues has to be addressed to ensure that the justice is delivered quickly, because justice delayed is justice delayed. Something like that you can give conclusion. All right. So this is the structure. Many students, you have not mentioned the other reasons. Directly you have mentioned the measures. Even the answers which I have chosen among the all who have submitted, I have chosen one answer. Please mention the name. Please mention your name. Okay, only then it will be easy for me to remember and analyze the performance over a period of time. So here the student, yes, as mentioned, has highlighted the data point, and from that, to address the government, government has taken certain measures such as increase in number of judges, but this is not sufficient. Just okay, so government has taken certain other measures to address, so we have directly jumped to other measures. Highlight some issues, other issues. Pendency of cases is not just because of shortage of judges, there are other issues also. Briefly mention that, then we can go for measures. All the measures which you have highlighted, that is fine. Promoting alternate redressal system, lok adalat, specialized tribunals, utilized technology, court timings and locations, all those are fine. Right? Your conclusion is also neat, but the other issues with respect to judiciary that you have not highlighted, briefly highlight. I know it's 10-marker question, but we have to briefly highlight. Please go to the answer key which I have given. So we will move on to the next question. Several factors contribute to the high degree of vulnerability faced by PVTG in India. In this context, examine how PM Janman aims to address these vulnerabilities. Right. So this question, you can start with the particularly vulnerable tribal group. We can define PVTG as a subcategory inside the scheduled tribes. So there are 75 PVTGs. Okay. And if you want, you can mention about the Debar Commission, which was actually categorizing the most vulnerable tribes among the listed scheduled tribes. All those you can mention. Right, then from there, these PVTG, as the name says, they are more vulnerable. So what are the factors So PVTG, then from there you highlight the factors which is making them more vulnerable. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for example, with respect to their land rights, right, with respect to their access to basic needs like education, like health, right, loss of traditional livelihood options, right, their discrimination, marginalization, all those are the reasons for their backwardness. Okay, now in this context, examine how PM Janman. So from here, what we can do to address these issues, government has taken several efforts, but to address particularly focusing on PVTGs, government has come up with a new scheme called as Pradhan Mantri Jan Jati Adivasi Nyaya Maha Abhiyan. Right. So you can mention about briefly about this scheme. So starting with PVTG, they are more vulnerable because of these reasons. To address this vulnerability, government came with PM Janman scheme. Briefly about the PM Janman, and you explain how PM Janman is going to address these issues. Many students, I would say everyone, have not touched this angle. You started explaining about PM Janman in detail. The question is not about explain PM Janman. The question is examine how PM Janman can bring them land rights, how PM Janman can ensure basic civic communities, how PM Janman can ensure education, how PM Janman can ensure health. That you should say how. So you can highlight the components of the PM Janman. Point number 1, to address their they are being displaced. They are not having a proper settlement. To address that problem, under the PM Janman scheme, there is a housing program which aims to provide concrete houses. Right. So this scheme specifically ensures access to basic amenities like sanitation, clean water. Don't mention the components. Highlight how the components is going to address the issue. Right. See, with respect to health, to address their health condition, setting up primary healthcare infrastructure is not feasible. So under this scheme, government is setting up mobile hospitals to ensure that last mile health service connectivity. Right. Similarly, because of the loss of traditional livelihood, there is income insecurity. To address that, under this PM Janman, government is coming up with vocational training. Okay, the government is aiming to set up the self-help groups through promoting Vandan Vikas Kendras. Like that, this has to be analyzed, this has to be compared. These are the issues. These issues are being addressed by PM Janman. No one was writing on these lines. And in the actual discussion video, I was mentioning about one housing scheme. That housing scheme, what is the issue? This question is not about the PM Janman housing scheme. Okay, but many were highlighting about the PM Janman housing scheme and you are mentioning those issues. Okay, so after highlighting this, then you can conclude. So effective implementation of the scheme is going to be very crucial for the development of PVTG. That can be one conclusion. Or you can say, though PVTG population or their contribution to economy might look insignificant, but they play a crucial role in the conservation of environment. So when we talk about society, that includes every section. So when we are talking about development, the development should be inclusive. So it is very, very imperative to address the plight of PVTG. You can give any conclusion, whatever you want. Right? Even the answer which I have chosen, only one part. So puja, the answer is not so great, puja, but still I have chosen yours among the others. See, here you have not explained what is PVTG. Explain what is PVTG. Right? We are talking about what Ministry of Home Affairs did. Then they face high degree of vulnerability. That is fine. They are marginalized. They struggle for basic amenities. Then the biasness, displacement, loss of traditional livelihood. All those is fine. Now, PM Janman aims to address these vulnerabilities faced by PVTGs. So, where you have highlighted what is PVTG, what is the aim, and you have given the components: Anganwadi, multipurpose center, hostel, occasional, installation of mobile towers. See, this is components. You have not connected with the issues. Okay, that connection is what is going to make the difference. That is the problem. And way forward, you are talking about streamlining registration process, enhancing data accuracy. This cannot be a way forward. In implementation of the schemes here, in implementation of PM Janman housing scheme, there was issue with respect to registration process. not in other components. Okay, what you can say is effective implementation of the scheme. There is a need of sufficient resources. There's a need of proper coordination between central and state government. There's a need between the different ministries. There's a need for strengthening the frontline government workers. Something like that you can hide as way forward. This is too specific, not for this question. Right. So day 16, one of the key highlights of the Union Budget 24-25 is the announcement of the Employment Linked Incentive Scheme. Discuss how it is different from traditional incentive scheme and discuss their potential to boost the employment. You can start with ELI. Remember, it's 10-marker question. Explain what is ELI. Just mention that it was proposed in the 24-25 budget. And put a subheading. It is different from the existing incentive schemes in following manner. How it is different? How it is different from the traditional incentive? How employment linked incentive is different? That we are going to highlight. See, for example, the traditional incentive scheme is focusing on production. You produce more, for example, production linked incentive scheme is focusing on more production. More the production, more the incentive. But the employment linked incentive scheme is focusing on incentive for new jobs. So how the traditional programs, not just production linked incentive scheme, there are many traditional schemes which focuses on bringing in more investments, which focuses on giving interest subvention to promote production, fiscal incentives to promote production. The traditional schemes are focusing on production, right? So from there, so the scheme, how it is different, we have mentioned. From how it is different, we have mentioned. Then from there, discuss how it is going to boost the employment. So how it is going to boost, right? So that you are going to highlight. So two parts briefly are going to address. Start with ELI. From there, you go for how it is different from the existing incentive schemes. At least 3 to 4 points. Then from there you say how it is going to boost the employment. Again, if you have not seen this video, please watch my video. Right. Then finally you can talk about the conclusion. Right. In the conclusion point, you can highlight about the issues. There are, despite of offering more potential, ELA also has its own issues. Addressing few issues you can highlight. So by addressing the issue, we can make ELI as a greater opportunity for improving the employment opportunities in the country. Something like that you can finish. Okay, so here, Laushika, you have written really well. Okay, this question you have done really well. So you have highlighted about the ELI scheme. Then how it is different from the traditional incentive scheme, right? That you have highlighted. Traditional incentives, where it is focusing. Okay, how this employment linked incentive scheme is different, that you have highlighted, and also you have mentioned about the potential to boost the employment. Both the subcategories you have highlighted, right? And you have given a decent conclusion as well. Nothing to comment. Your answer is good, right? Others, if you want, we can also go through, and just you can pause the video and you can go through it. Right? It is neat. Right. So ELA scheme directly results in hiring the workers irrespective of sector, can absorb more workers, right? Real employment generation, with proper skill training, ELA will result in stable jobs. Right? Conclusion is also neat. So it proves to be a boom in creating jobs. However, its true potential can be realized only with regular monitoring, introducing transparency, accountability, creation of stable jobs. Great. So next question is examine the impact of US federal rate hikes on emerging markets like India. Discuss the strategies India can adopt to mitigate its susceptibility to these hikes and enhance its macroeconomic resilience. So give an intro that post-liberalization Indian economy or emerging markets like India is being influenced by various global economic conditions, including the market rates in the developed countries like USA. Okay, so from there we are going to highlight the impact. So impact of US Federal Reserve on India, emerging markets like India. So you analyze the impact. Again, we have made a detailed discussion. Go through that if you have not watched. Then discuss the strategies India can adopt to mitigate the susceptibility to these hikes and enhance its macroeconomic resilience. So what is the strategy India can adopt? Right, to protect ourselves and also to enhance our macroeconomic resilience. So highlight those points. Then finally, in conclusion, you finish it with the internationalization of rupee. Right? See, of course, by reducing the imports, increasing the exports, bringing in more stable FDI, by focusing on rupee-denominated borrowings like masala bonds, all these are great solutions. But for a long-time solution, it is internationalization of rupee. Okay, globally there is a mood for de-dollarization, but India is focusing on making rupee as an international currency. So by making it international, we can bypass the usage of dollars. So that will be our long-term solution to address these problems. Okay, so highlight the impact, highlight the strategies to overcome this impact, finish it with the internationalization of rupee. Right? So Annie Jency, so you have mentioned about the macroeconomic stability of economy like India depend on external factors. Good. You have went for the impact of US federal rate. So increase in US federal rate creates difference in the interest rates. It leads to capital outflow, rupee depreciate. Right, it becomes difficult for Indian companies with dollar denomination. Global investors coping with. Okay, nice. Your points are good. When we're talking about impacts, see, look at the question. Examine the impact. Okay, if you want, you can also highlight some positive impacts also. Okay, but anyhow, the question is largely on the negative side, but also you can mention some positive impacts because the question is about impacts. Now, these impacts make India's macroeconomic stability susceptible to the external shocks. Right? The question is having a negative tone, maybe 1 or 2 points. There are positive, but there are many negative impacts. Okay. So India's strategies to adopt. So you have given the strategies. The best part of your answer is I think you are the only one who have followed my advice. You have covered 6 points above. From the second subheading, you have started with 7th point, 8th point. So what happened is, so when I finish your answer, it gives me an opinion that you have written more. For example, you have written 14 points. So by reading the conclusion, I will look at the 14th point. It gives me a feeling that you have done more. Of course, you have done more. Right? But if you had started with 1, 2, 3, 4 again from the second subheading, then that will not give me that impression. So yes, you have done. You have taken the advice sincerely. Thank you. Then India strategies you have given. Yes. Strengthening the macroeconomic fundamental, reduce the dependence from external factors, expand the trade relation, bringing FDIs, export base, maintain good amount of forex reserve, promote rupee-denominated masala bonds. All those are fine. Then finally, in conclusion, you have also touched the internationalization of rupee. Yes, your answer is definitely neat. So your answer and the Gaushika's answer definitely, it's a very good attempt, right? The initial 2 answers was not so great, but still you have done a good job. So as I mentioned, next week we will not be having editorial discussion. It will resume from next to next week. I hope all our efforts are adding value in your preparation. Download the answer key and go through it once. I will see you in the next video. Till then, bye. Take care.